All right. Hello, Veruschka. Welcome in. So happy that you could join me today.
Thank you
Um,
so much. Wonderful to be here. Go ahead.
yes, no, I love it. I love it. I love your energy and I love just kind of that lighthearted, joyful spirit that you bring to any and every room I've ever been in with you. So
Thank you.
I guess just to start, if
Yes.
you could tell us who you are, where you're from, and the modalities that you currently work with and offer.
Sure. So my name is Veruschka del Rio. I'm in Fort Lee, New Jersey. And my voice is getting scratchy. So I facilitate hypnotherapy. That's really what I started with. I also do breath work, meditation. I do some sound healing. It's been a long journey. So I got into bioenergy healing. And then my last modality, which I'm obsessed with, has been spinal energetics. So a little bit of everything there.
Yeah, I love it. And how many years, I guess, has this energetic journey been for you from like what was the first start?
I mean, I think it's always been a natural part of my language since I was very young. I really started working in it in 2015 was when I
Yeah.
started really at that time with nutrition, but that quickly metamorphs more into I'm obsessed with human behavior, energy work, how we function, why we are the way we are. So I want to say solid now 10 years since 2015.
Yeah. Beautiful. Nice. And so what was it then that drew you into spinal energetics?
I started to do Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. I don't know if you've heard of him. He does a lot through breath work and meditation. And when I started to do that work, I would see that these people had these somatic releases, but I didn't understand what it was, and it wasn't happening to me. So I was obsessed, like, why is the body moving and how is it happening? So I got into Kundalini activation and my body finally had that release. And for a while, I was thinking of studying that. And then one day on Instagram, Dr. Sarah popped up with spinal energetics. And I said, they're doing the same thing. And that's when I really started to focus into it. And it just fell in my lap because I was thinking of studying Kundalini. And then once I found spinal energetics, I found it to be even more technical and precise. So it was really beautiful. And I connected right away to it. And that's how I got there. So it was a little
I
bit of
love
a
that.
journey. Yeah, that evolved.
Yeah. Yeah. So then what was your first spinal energetics experience like? What was your first session like? Was that something that happened in person or online? Can you tell us a
So
little bit about it?
it happened in person. I went to see actually Jen Ryan, who is a friend of ours. And she was really the only one I found close to here. She's in Connecticut. So she's probably about an hour and a half from me. And I went and my first experience was in a group. So I had already done Kundalini, so I was familiar with the body movement. But when I worked with her, it was completely different because she added sound. So my brain was trying to figure out, okay, how are they talking to the energy? How is the body? I was obsessed on the body movement, and I know that's not the focus of spinal energetics, but that's really what drew me in. And so, um, I was mesmerized by it because it was a lot more coherent. My body would move in a much more coherent way than it did with Kundalini, where with Kundalini, I was more like, I felt like my body was flapping all over the place. And with spinal, when I did it with Jen, it was very focused on certain energy centers and certain points, which I didn't know then, but I did feel that my body, when it moved, it was much more coherent, which I found fascinating. And then after that, the next few days, I just felt this burst of energy, and I felt more in tune with myself, more connected to my thoughts, more connected to, especially in doing my work with other clients of mine. I felt that the sessions were deeper. And I felt more. I was more in tune when I would do the breath work or the meditation. I was also a lot more grounded in my body. So I felt that there was a lot more peace and coherence within my group work, which I thought was beautiful. So it translated in different parts of what I do. And then I said, that's it. I need to learn this. And it was the perfect timing because that's actually when Dr. Sarah was having it close to us in Toronto. And so the timing was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I have been blessed enough to be able to receive work from Jen Ryan as well. And like she's a powerhouse. And I've had the opportunity to interview her with this as well. And I absolutely love the energy that she carries in the space that she's able to hold for others. I'm a little jealous that she was your first.
She's my first.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you already kind of touched a little bit on some of the after effects of just that feeling of groundedness and connectedness, and being to sink a little bit deeper to yourself. But aside from that aftermath within yourself, like what were some of kind of the resonant effects that you experienced around you, either with others, with people, even family, friends? What was something that kind of came up for you there?
I think because I was more grounded in my body, my energy, I could take on more. And what would, let's say, normally trigger me, let's say through a family member or just something that would maybe give me a little bit more anxiety or trigger me or get me a little bit more worked up. Because I was more settled in my body, I had more capacity to hold that space and to
Mhm.
stay grounded within it, which I thought was beautiful.
Yeah.
And and then again, that ripples not only in that, but also in how I can I mean I think the most powerful was in my work because I was able to tap in, during a hypnosis session. I usually connect with the client. I kind of go into trance, just like with all this work with spinal, right? We connect in the field of the person, but I felt that the resonance was even deeper for me.
Right. Yeah, no, I could definitely relate to that, being able to, by holding space for yourself, you can go deeper with others.
Yes,
You're not getting like pushed or pulled by someone
exactly.
else's energy, thoughts, feelings. Okay, well
Exactly.
that's awesome. So what then was it exactly that kept you coming back to receiving those spinal energetic sessions?
I needed to learn it. I needed to understand. I'm very brainy in that sense. I was obsessed with figuring out what is it that we're tapping into that can make someone else's body have those releases. And so I really wanted to understand. And the more I had it done. I actually had it done with Jen. I did a few groups and then I went right into learning it. So I didn't have, much else after that until I learned. And once I learned it, it's such a, it looks like we're not doing much in the sense we're just fueling and making sounds. But when you understand how technical and how specific it is, and how we're really tapping into the person's nervous system and their energetic layers and their energy centers, it's so coherent. And I just became obsessed with that. So, and now I receive it myself because it's important to do it in order for me to stay in that state of energy and
Hmm.
that frequency. But also I can also sense a lot more when I'm working with others, and I can't get enough of it. I'm
Yeah.
I'm excited that we're there's more facilitators coming on, so we have more availability because we all need spinal energetics.
Definitely, definitely. So I do want to ask you this. I didn't really take the time to go deeper with this on with others, just because you were the first to mention group
Mhm.
spinal energetics. A lot of people's others first experiences were either like in person or online. So
Yes.
what do you feel is kind of that difference or that big shift in
Mm.
experience when it comes to having that group experience versus uh,
One on
a
one.
private session? Yeah.
So I think they're both just as powerful. And I think a group can be even more powerful because in a group, the more people, the more frequency, the more energy, and we raise that. And so it's very interesting to see when you have a group, everybody's energy starts to tune in, and it builds resonance. So having that, it's like a wave that goes through the room and it just intensifies it so much more. I also think that it gives people permission to be expressive. So sometimes during spinal, you might feel like crying, or you might want to yell, or use your voice. And one-on-one, for some people, they could feel more intimidated, or they have to stay more with not expressing that. And in a group, once you hear somebody screaming or crying, that also gives you permission to do it. So there is that safety, that space. And I think that in groups is really beautiful too, because people share. So
Mhm.
you don't realize how much you really have in common with other people when you think that you may be going through things alone. So,
Right.
yeah,
Right. That is one of my favorite elements with experiencing group sessions is just because like something that you feel like only you've experienced, there's resonance and that can kick off with someone else. So like be it a death or grief or something on that level, like you share that experience with someone. You're not in that alone. So I totally agree of like it's a support system whenever you're experiencing it with group and you don't realize just how comforting that can be.
this
Yeah.
safe space, which is beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Well, Veruschka, my last question then, this is my favorite one. If you were to describe spinal energetics with just one word,
Oof.
what would that word be?
I have chills right now. So I feel electricity running up my body. Um, I think spinal energetics is okay. I have two words. So one, I would say connection. I think it's connection to self and your higher self. And I also think it's authenticity because it
Mm,
brings out your true self. It helps to peel all of those layers and masks that we tend to place
awesome.
on ourselves as we experience trauma and challenges through life. We start to build these walls. And I think spinal energetics breaks through all of that. And it really lets your authentic self come out. And that's that connection to you, to your higher self, to your true self. So I would say
Yeah.
connection and authenticity. Yeah.
I would say I totally agree.
Yeah.
Anytime I share or talk about spinal energetics, that's authentic self and authentic self-expression is something that like a phrase that I always end up using. So I totally agree.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
Beautiful.
Verushka, my dear, it has been an absolute treat to be able to like chat with you and to get a little bit more about your experience.
Likewise.
Um, yeah. So if you could tack on, if maybe you have a handle that you want to mention for any kind of social media or website you want to plug before we sign off.
Sure. So my website is www.zentuary.co. It doesn't have the M. It was taken. So it's .co, .co, and same on Instagram at Zentuary. Oh my gosh, I forgot it. At Zentuary Healing Center. And or you could just Google it too. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very, very
Thank
much.
you
And
so
I look
much.
forward
It
to
was
talking to you soon.
wonderful. Likewise, thank you, Kennedy. It was beautiful speaking.